Welcome everybody to the VO Dojo Ask the Sensei. I am Tish Hicks, the Master Sensei based here in Burbank, California. We're joined by Kelsey V, who is Dojo team member who makes everything go. And we're super excited to have Memo Sauceda joining us here as guest sensei to answer your questions and see how we can help you move forward on anything either you've been stuck on or worried about or excited about or wanting to know more about. We're here to help in any way we can by answering your questions. So before we get started, it's great to hear where everyone's from, but Memo, would you like to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your journey, who you are, what you've been up to, these 3 decades or so, as many decades. Um, yeah, introduce yourself.
Feels like yesterday. It's been a wonderful adventure. So I'll try and keep it brief. Maybe I'll try to do it in a minute. So I started my acting career at the same time I started college. So I studied computers, which doesn't have anything to do with this, but I was doing theater at the same time. I graduated. I went to London to do a postgraduate acting course. I went back to Monterey, which is where I'm from. I studied there my
In
career.
Mexico, right?
Monterey, Mexico.
Yeah. Mhm.
Yes, not California. Monterey, Mexico. I saw that there was not a lot of opportunity, so I went to Mexico City, where everything happens, arts related. So I met very first day I met people from dubbing, like all the people that I had heard when I was little, Charlie's Angels and Chips and all those TV series in Spanish. I started hearing all those voices. So I asked them, oh, I would like to try that. So they gave me a name, I took a course, and then I became very involved. I'm the voice of Mel Gibson in Spanish, John Travolta, Kevin Costner. I did 4 years of all day long dubbing, so it was great. Then I noticed that people doing dubbing did commercials, so I started doing commercials. Then Telemundo asked me to come to Miami to do an on-camera show, which I did. I was with them 3 years. I had 3 shows with them. Then I went to radio because they didn't renew my contract. I did the morning drive for a year or two, and then they let me go. So I went back to commercials, and then I became union. And now it's my bread and butter, union commercials. But then I also started helping within the union, and now I'm helping also in other organizations. I'm the treasurer of WOVO, and I'm also the president of OVU, which is the Organization of United Voices, and most of our members are from Latin America. So now I'm giving back because I received a lot from other people. So I'm happy to help anyone I can. And that's
Yeah, fantastic. And WOVO is World Voices Organization, right? Yeah,
the
yeah,
president. Yes.
yeah. Excellent. Great. So, now let's start with the question part. So, what we'd love for you to do, everybody, is write your questions in the chat, and then we can call you in, and you can get your voice in the room. Kevin, you have your hand up first, which is a great thing that we encourage. We encourage at the dojo. If you ever have an opportunity to raise your hand first, it's a good habit to get into. Um, so, Kevin, what is your question? And if we can put questions in the chat, and then we'll call you in. But Kev, what's your? Oh, you did put it in the chat. Okay. What's your question, Kevin?
Okay, the question's about how long have you been doing voice acting then?
Yes, I started acting in 82, but then started doing dubbing in 89. So in 82, I started my college years and theater and everything, and then voiceover in 89. So it's been more than 30 years, as you mentioned, Tish. And
Mm-hmm.
great. It's a wonderful ride, and it's a blessing, and it's a very thankful career. So I'm glad that you're all here, and I'm happy to share what I know. And I'm still learning. That's the wonderful thing, because things evolve, commercials evolve, the way you do things evolve. So you cannot think that you know everything, because you don't. Things change. I mean, I just did an audiobook last week, and I I said that I was not going to do a lot of audiobooks because they're very long and then they don't pay very well. But oh my God, what a wonderful experience. My first audiobook, it was like, oh, I need to do this audiobook. This second audiobook, it was wow, I get to do an audiobook. So I learned so much because I was open to the new experience. So now I know how to put markers and how to go back to where the character was to hear the voice and punch and roll. So I was able to go to do a 20-minute chapter finish time in 30 minutes. So
That's
it
a great ratio. That's a great ratio.
So what's the dubbing? Well, what voice dubbing did you did for any shows then?
dubbing. I'm the voice of Mel Gibson in Lethal Weapon 1, 2, and 3, Braveheart, Forever Young, Hamlet. I'm the voice of John Travolta in Look Who's Talking 1, 2, 3, Kevin Costner in Revenge and Dancing with Wolves, Kenneth Branagh in Henry V, Sailor Moon. I've done some dubbing, and I just did something for an anime last week. I don't know the name. This is new for me. I know there's a lot of anime fans. I don't know all the the different,
You don't even know what a celebrity you are.
but it's great. And now that you can do dubbing from your studio at home, it's not everyone can do it, but when they trust you, I mean, it's amazing. And now let me say this about dubbing. The dubbing when I started was so different from what it is now. In the olden times, you would be in front of the script with a TV in front of you, and there were maybe two up to five people checking the script and recording at the same time. So now you do it by yourself. You're not with someone else anymore. But now it's a collaboration between three people: the actor, the director, and the audio guy. Because now if you are like a little bit short or long, the editor, the audio engineer, will shorten it or make it longer so it will fit the voice of the character. And sometimes, if the character does a lot of movements and you don't close your mouth in the dialogue, the director will change the script on the fly to make it match the way the voice is moving. So it really is now a collaboration between three people.
Mike, we have a question from you.
Yeah, I was just curious about the differences and the similarities between doing an audiobook and a film as far as the energy and the level of acting and what you have to bring because they're both certainly a script, but what do you have to bring to kind of bring it to life?
Mm.
Yes, two different beasts altogether. With dubbing, you have to be the character. And in audiobooks, you are, but just a little bit less. And let me explain. In a movie, you have to become the character and be as loud as the character is. In a book, you don't do that because it will go it will sound very weird that you are the narrator saying, and this and this happened, and suddenly she said, oh my God. But if you go like, oh my God, then it will not match correctly. So uh, it's like a narration, but you get to do the characters. And that's why it's very important to know how to put markers, because once a new character appears, then you do a marker, and then if you read the book before, you know who the character is, so you know what voice to put that character. So it's in a level of acting that's maybe um, almost like a movie, but not quite, because you're still narrating and you're still interacting with other characters. And maybe if there are women talking, you're not going to change your voice completely to be a woman. It's just the attitude. Uh, but it's so cool. And there are times where, for some reason, you didn't read a chapter and you start doing the chapter, and it happened to me. I got a new character, so I said, okay, this character may sound like this. So, oh yeah, how are you guys? This is Tim. And suddenly I read, said Tim, the 18-year-old boy.
Yeah. I was also just what you said, Memo. If you think about it, when you said that there's a team in dubbing, there's a team in dubbing. So when you are doing an audiobook, you're doing your prep and you need to sort of be the person who is going like, okay, how many characters are there? Where do they come? Who's talking to who? And in the dubbing process, everyone needs to be covered in a movie, but it's sort of the engineer and the director who is doing all of that work. So in dubbing, you're doing your character in the movie. In audiobooks, you're doing all the characters, and you're the director, and you're the dramaturg, and you're being the basic engineer, right? The first layer of engineering. So all of those things, you wear all of the hats in doing an audiobook. And the other thing that just occurred to me is, and this is a good thing to think about any medium that you're doing. How is it being received, right? So ideally, in the idea of a movie is that it's up on a screen. Right now, it's like here on our phones, but the idea of it is that it's up and you are in the world. And an audiobook, how do you usually listen to it? It's so intimate. It's probably in your earbuds or by your bedside, or if you're doing stuff around the kitchen, maybe it's a little louder. But we audiobooks might be something that you do while you're doing something else, either laying down to go to sleep or so that intimacy of how we're receiving is something that's different, as well. Yeah.
Oh, you
Yeah.
mentioned something wonderful because in dubbing, you don't worry about any technical stuff. So you are free to experiment. And that's another thing. With dubbing, you have like the rehearsal to know who the character is. The director will help a little bit, but you have to catch what he's like, what he sounds like, what his inner motive is in a blink of an eye. So for
Mhm.
dubbing, if you're an actor, it helps a lot because it will guide you through what that character sounds like and what you should voice him like.
Mhm.
In an audiobook, you need to be an engineer, as Tish mentioned, and you have many things to worry about. And now that you mentioned that, Tish, with audiobooks, I as I mentioned, I learned a lot. So the way
Mm.
it worked wonderful for me was like this. During breakfast, I read one or two chapters and then I record them. Then at lunch,
Mhm.
I read one or two chapters and then I record them. And at night, I didn't read, but I tried to record after dinner, and usually that doesn't work very well. So I realized that for me, during the day is better, not at
Mhm.
night. Yes.
Right, right. We always need to find all of our biorhythms, yeah, for doing that. Yeah, excellent.
Thank you, Mike.
Lena, so glad you're here.
Hi, Tish. Hola, Memo. Mucho gusto.
Igualmente, Lina.
Sí, tengo ganas de conocerte. Thank you so much. This is wonderful. So I have a question. I have a lot of acting background, etc., and I would love to get into dubbing because I'm Mexican American, Memo. I was born in Mexico City. So I would love to use my talent in that way as well, but I found that it's difficult because I don't live near Los Angeles, I don't live in New York, I don't live in Dallas and Miami. What is the new panorama for voice actors who don't live in big markets to be able to do dubbing, maybe small parts or whatever, where we have the skills and the experience and we're easily directed, but we can't easily travel to places like Los Angeles or New York City. Are people able to do dubbing like that from smaller markets?
So it's a two-part question. So dubbing, it's not something that's very easy to do. You must have first acting chops, which you do have, and then you need to have a rhythm, a special rhythm, and maybe connections. So nowadays, I think the only way to do that, I mean, to start in dubbing from zero, not knowing anyone, would be to do it with Zoo Dubs, which is also called Zoo Digital. So they are training people for their dubbing projects. And once they know you, I mean, if you take their classes, they will know who you are and see that you work because you're an actor. So they will call you. The other companies that are doing dubbing, they are relying on people that they know already. So still, I would say talk to them and tell them who you are and tell them your setup. And perhaps once you've done something, either where you are located or with Zoo Digital, send it to them. Because I tried, I did the first Batman movie, so I am Batman. And then when I knew that the Flash movie was coming out, I found out first who was the studio that was going to make the new version of the movie. And I told them, look, I did the first Batman. So how would it be that I do Michael Keaton now, 30 years later? Uh, they didn't choose me, and I totally understand because they rather have everyone over there at the studio. But they were the ones that called me to do that anime that I did last week. So all the connections that you make will eventually uh, uh, serve you well. So just start with Zoo Digital, try and find a company that does dubbing where you are and start doing connections and it will happen. Believe me, if you really want it, it will happen.
Thank you, Memo. Gracias. Thank you.
Lena
Great.
also speaks many, many languages. Mhm. Which actually makes me ask a question that might open up for everyone. Can you tell us a little bit more about EVA? You said it's mostly Latin American countries, but in going to the website, it's really all countries, right? It's very, very international. Can you tell us a little bit more about it?
The UVA, United Voice Artists, they're helping everyone regulate AI. So most of the associations in the world are part of the UVA, and we actually had a meeting yesterday, and there are very interesting things happening now. I mean, there are some contracts that now accept the AI clause. So everyone in Germany, Italy, Spain, they are trying to put protections against AI. And basically, we are not against AI. We just want it not to be abused. Like some people are stealing the voices of the actors, and you don't do that. You need to have consent from the actor to be able to use that voice or train that a machine learning thing. So we just want people to be fair and do not steal the voices and use them without permission. So the UVA is doing that at an international level. They have some guidelines and you can find them on their website and you can add that writer to your contract, which I did in something that I did recently. It didn't mention AI. So I told them, look, can we use this writer that I have? And they sent it to their lawyers and their lawyers agreed. And now we have it on the contract. So also be informed now of all the things that are happening AI related and protect yourself because we don't know where this is going. And some are abusing the power of AI. So just open your eyes and be aware that it's out there and that you should protect yourself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So if you're not if you're working internationally, the UVA is great, and if you're here, and everyone should be part of the NAVA, the National Association of Voice Actors, as well. So yeah.
Yes.
Cool. Thank you, Memo. Kitty, good to see you. What's your question?
When I get a dubbing audition and there is no reference, they don't provide one, how do I determine like the cadence and the delivery and even the tone from another language? I got an anime dubbing and I thought I knew, and then I was complaining to my son about how when they don't give me a reference, how am I supposed to know? And they speak like this, da, 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 da. He was like, yeah, no, they don't. You should probably watch more anime. And I was like, oh, they don't? And he was like, no. And you sound racist. Like you need to do your homework. And I was like, wait, what? So, well, I mean, we can't be right. Anyway, what do
No,
you?
but great question. No, you need to do your homework and first try and scan the script and see if there are any clues to what he or she might or it might sound like, and go with your gut instinct. I was a very square artist at the beginning. I wanted to pronounce every word that the writer wrote because I thought, out of respect, you need to do that. And no, it's okay to allow you to make the character yours. If they tell you you have to say every single word, fine. But most of the time, you can make your character your own. And if there's no reference, then go with it. Go with whatever you feel like. Now my auditions, I'm really going, I'm doing two takes, of course. One that it's similar to what they want, and another one that it's completely out of the box, something crazy, something that I think will work, although it's a little bit crazy, so they can see your range. And that's what they want to do, see your range. Because if you're way up here, they know that they can lower you because they already hear your other take. And this is kind of up here, but the other one is up here. So they say, oh, we can work with this person. So just follow your gut and don't be afraid. Be adventurous. I mean, that's maybe age giving me that perspective. Be adventurous and go for it. Don't be like the rest. Be yourself. And if you want to go super high, go super high. And if they allow you 3 takes, oh, just enjoy them. Have fun with them, but make them different. Because there's nothing worse than hearing a take and then the other one take is exactly the same, but with pauses.
Yeah.
Like, no, that's not a second take.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
but you would definitely suggest homework though, right? Because I mean, I feel like I'm out of my wheelhouse. So it's not even like an emotion so much as it is like it's a whole different language. So I feel like the cadence, that's what I'm really talking about, like the pacing and stuff. Not like my performance necessarily, but like, you know, if it's this language, they speak more like a lullaby, you know, like Irish always sound like they're singing when even when they're mad, you know. What? Here are you? Why are you coming? You know, like that was bad, but you know what I mean.
Well, I think that the art of dubbing is is really, because as Memo said, becoming that character, and then knowing, just in the same way that if you're dubbing a film, or you're dubbing a major motion picture, or if you're dubbing a TV show, or if you're whatever you're dubbing, understanding that medium. And I think you were asking, Kitty, about anime. In particular, anime is its own little ecosystem, and it has its own little universe of archetypes and prototypes, and people go way, way, way in depth. So maybe even just, figuring out how to get a primer of that, or note, if there's a reference to another character. Well, you're saying there's no references, right? But just to get a sense of, yeah, yeah. So just to get a sense of what is the feel, like, oh, I know this is this kind of anime. So it is a little bit about tuning in. And then, and just in the same way you would, oh, is it a comedy, or is it a drama, or is it an action movie? You'd make those adjustments. And then I think that the through line of all dubbing is specificity, because you need to be able to tune into not only where is everything coming from, what's going on, as Memo said, in an instant, like, okay, here's the scene, and this happens, and then his daughter's killed in front of his eyes, and then he has to go before the Supreme Court, or whatever, like whatever happens, right? Um, but to be able to notice all the little nuances of that performance, bring it authentically to yourself, and keep it specific. And remember, you said that you don't have to do technical things in dubbing. You don't have to do the engineering part, but technically, it's a very precise art form, because of the being able to make, like you were saying, the cadence, or the lip flaps. So you have to bring all that in this. So it's kind of like fitting into somebody else's suit. And making sure that you can fit. But I'm always like, I think dubbing just puts you in that, oh, little riff, but it has to do with something. I was talking to someone, an amazing guy who's totally on his way, and he was he's a working pro sort of in the beginning parts, and lots of good things are happening. But he was saying, man, I spent all this money on going to this art school where I did acting, but I also did drawing classes. And I was like, oh, my friend, I know it can be like grumbling, like, I'm paying student loans for, why do I have to take art classes? They cost so much money. I was like, what? Don't underestimate what you learned in drawing class, because what you learned in drawing class is what we do every day, which is being able to notice and understand how to look at things, see not, oh, that's a picture of that. Oh, wait, there's a shadow and that goes there and that's the proportion. Like, so how to see things, I think dubbing really requires us to do that, because if you're going to fit into that other person's skin or suit or anything, you have to notice, oh, those little subtle things of, oh, she breathed in, oh, she did that, like you have to notice all of those little delicious details. And then when we bring that specificity, and then we can bring that specificity into the things that we create, not the things we're fitting into a suit. So lots of really cool things. And
And
then
regarding
knowing which suit you're fitting into is obviously a good thing. Yeah. Mm.
And regarding the cadence that you mentioned, some directors want to do animes just as normal as possible. So do not go, oh,
Mhm.
nothing of that. Just try and do something that will sound natural, like we're speaking right now. So you don't know what they want, what the director wants. Hence,
Mm.
just go crazy and go normal and show them your range.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah. And
Kelsey B,
AI,
what's your
very
question?
quickly, Tish, I'm sorry, we
Oh
don't
yeah.
know what's going to happen with dubbing. I mean, there are
Oh
examples,
yeah. Mhm.
but we don't know if it's sustainable or if it cost effective. I mean, yes, you can manipulate a lot of things, but you need someone programming those things. And it's cheaper and easier to have an actor go down and up and all do all these things that you need a programmer maybe take an hour and you'll do it in 1 minute. So what's more cost effective? We don't know. Only the future will tell.
Right. And then what happens to storytelling without humans? Like that, I mean, that's the big question, right? So you can dub it, so but that's, I mean, like if you don't have good dubs, I mean, I think a good dub makes or breaks your experience of the piece of art that you're adapting. And if you have a bad dub, it's like, oh, I don't want to watch this. Just like if you have a bad audiobook narrator, like, oh,
Mhm.
thank you. I love this book. I hate you. No, right? Yeah. We will embrace humanity. Um, yeah. Kelsey, what's your question?
My question is, so this is kind of a little bit convoluted. Um, do you find that Spanish dubbing to English, so when you're doing Mel Gibson and Braveheart, do you find that they prioritize voice matching and sound more, or is performance more important? And then does it depend on a project? So if they called you in to do a Mel Gibson for like an Old Spice commercial that Mel Gibson did, do they care more that you match his voice in that instance, like the more like his tonality? Does that make sense?
Mm.
Totally. No, no, no. I totally
Okay.
understand what you're saying. So it depends on the client because in Spanish, the Flintstones are way better in Spanish than in English. But in Spanish, the voices are different from the ones in English. So it's Fred, it's a very deep voice, and what's the name in English? Pablo, but I don't remember the little guy.
Barney in English. Barney
Exactly.
Rubble.
In Spanish, he has a very high tone, very different from in English. So
Mm.
it's a creation that they did that worked perfectly. So if the client doesn't mind that, then you can create some wonderful things. And proof of that is the Flintstones in Spanish. There are some cartoons that are better in Spanish than in English because they allow the people, the actors, to just create something wonderful. Now,
Mm.
with Disney is different. Disney wants a voice that matches the character, the original character voice. And it works, but you might be losing some of that creativity that the actor has. And if the actor is good and he's creative and you can match the voice, oh, that's when magic happens. And you can see it with Beauty and the Beast. If you hear the guy doing the Spanish version, Chandelier, Gaston, I don't know the name, but the
Oh,
Chandelier.
the Lumiere, the
Lumiere.
candlestick, right? Yeah.
In Latin Spanish, you hear that with the English and with the Spanish from Spain. Oh my God, the Latin Spanish is something totally different. It's a master way of singing that song. So I like more that version than the English or the one from Spain. And the one from Spain was trying to match the original, and he did a good job. It's a good dubbing, but the difference, it's the creativity. In the Latin Spanish, you feel it. And that's the key with AI and a human. It's the humanity that you bring that makes you feel something. And it happens with music. When you create music in a keyboard, it's very different than when you hear it live. I mean, there is a difference, and it's that, the humanity of it all.
Yeah. At the dojo, one of the foundational principles that everything we do here is based on is that voiceover is communication, and communication is an exchange of vibrational energy. And I think when we have those situations that we can feel those vibrations, and even if it is that it's coming through the TV or the film or something, when we feel that, that's when the communication happens. We feel it. Otherwise, it's words, words, words. But when we feel it, because you felt it, so we feel it, that's communication, right?
I
Otherwise,
wish
it's just information. Yeah.
I wish I had a teacher like you, Tish, when I was starting. You have two ways of doing this. You have your own and fail a lot of times and lose a lot of time, or having a teacher that will guide you through the process and not make the mistakes that you are going to make if you do it on your own. So if you have a teacher, you will save a lot of time and don't do those mistakes that we all do. If someone can guide you, well, it will become from mystery to mastery. Yeah, you will become very good, very fast.
Yeah, yeah,
Thank
and
you.
yeah, um, yeah, and when we come together, we're all teaching each other. So this is good. I think I heard there's the theory that it's 10,000 hours to mastery, and then I think I've seen an article that's like 10,000 hours. There's just doing it, and then when you look at someone like a violinist, who are you working with in those 10, who and how are you working in those 10,000 hours? But yeah, so
Yeah,
yeah,
it has to
awesome.
be a focused 10,000 hours, not
Hmm.
just yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, yeah. Let's see. Other great questions. Steve, welcome, welcome. What's your
Yes,
question?
hello. Yes, hola Memo.
Hola.
Quick question. So for me, I live in North America in Canada specifically, but had a question about basically bilingual, the advice that you would have, el consejo, like
Mhm.
about finding the coaching, the representation, marketing, uh, yeah, and trying to get that some traction with that.
Oh, now it's the best time to be bilingual and to have an accent. Now they want our accent, and they want the accent to be authentic. So now when I get castings, it says it must be a person from Mexico speaking English, not someone trying to do a Mexican accent. So
Mhm.
now it's the best time to do it, Steve. I don't
So
know.
in my case, my Spanish is neutral. Like I learned it 17 years ago. So and I'm married to a Colombian, so I still speak Spanish all day, every day. But I mean, I even teach it online for
Mhm.
for the day work. But was just trying to figure out because I wouldn't even dream to try to do a Mexican accent. Um, but I have more of a neutral Spanish accent.
You are a strange and a very select breed. I mean, you don't have an accent in English, and it's what they like now. Now I'm getting more casting saying we want someone that speaks English without an accent and Spanish without an accent. So use that. I mean, because now that's on demand. They want to use the same voice for English and Spanish. Just be careful because on the SAG-AFTRA contract, in theory, they can pay the Spanish as a tag, and they shouldn't. You need to have two separate contracts. So you will have two separate residuals on the different languages. And we're trying to correct this on the next go for the commercial contract because it's not fair. You are a very unique individual. And if they don't use you, they're going to have to look for someone else. So they're spending more time in doing another casting and finding the voice. So it's more resources. So you must have a prize for being able to have no accent in both languages. So it's on demand. So go for it. This is your time, Steve. Just make sure that you have two separate contracts with two separate residuals.
Okay. And then in the idea of looking for representation and like, would you say for marketing, it's just getting on the P2Ps, or is there specific?
If you, most likely on any agency, they won't have someone like you. Or if they have, they will have one person like you. So this is a great branding for you. No accent in English, no accent in Spanish. That's exactly what they're looking for. So I can assure you that whatever agency you go to, they will want you. And you can check on their website to see if there's someone like you. And I assure you there will be no one like you. So yeah, now is your time. So go for it, Steve. Try all different agencies. Go to the West Coast, East Coast, and in the middle, and find the best. Go for the best one always.
Yeah. And also, the exciting thing about being a voiceover artist now is that there are so many different ways that we can be diversifying our revenue streams. So working with pay to plays is one way, having representation is another way, doing direct marketing is another way. Figuring out if you are working internationally, a lot of international work is just about being on rosters. And you get booked off your demo. So if you have, if you understand how that market works, so there's all these different approaches. Now, I always think there's an image that I like to use is if you want to go to see a concert in a venue, right? The band you want to see is in a club. You could stand in line to get a ticket going around the block, or how do you get it so that the velvet rope lifts and you just get in, right? So you could, in a pay to play, pay to plays and being smart about how pay to plays work can be a lovely rhythm of success, and depending on what voices you have. And I'm not as aware how the international opportunities or multilingual opportunities are, but you might want to find some version of that. But the key is in pay to play, there's 1,000 people. There's 1,000 people that are all getting that same audition and going to be sending stuff in and da 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 da. If you have an agent who you are the only one who can do this and this, it's Steve Ward. Let's get him in here. Here, Steve, here's the job. Or here, you're one of three, you're one of two, because that agency only has one and selling agent, right? And will that, then you create the Venn diagrams of like, oh, okay, so I am this and I'm this, but do you see what I'm saying? So in the mindset, no, there's no right way to do this, guys. Everybody's going to find their own path, and everyone's going to build their business in their own way that works for them. And you're going to find the things that start hitting, right? Some people pay to play, like, boom, hit it. It works all the time. Some people are like, I do 1,000,000 auditions and I haven't gotten anything, so you find the things that work. But yeah. Yeah, how can you cut to the chase? How do you cut to the chase? And I love this idea of what makes you unique. And then every single one of us has something that is like that.
Oh,
and
yes.
If you don't think you do, then keep on thinking about it and find out what it is. So,
Have
yeah.
our own path. So just follow your own path.
Maria has a lovely question.
So I have kind of like a two-parter, but they're kind of related in a bit. So I like to do research on everyone that comes and donates their time to speak to us, especially someone with experience like you. I downloaded an audiobook on Audible yesterday that you narrated in 2022. It's called, I think it's Crema Paraiso. If I butchered that, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Okay, so when I was listening, I was so amazed. There are so many narrators that you come across that they're good, they're great, but you have like this cadence that's just like smooth and it's textured, but at the same time like velvety. And so a question that popped into my head is, why are you not doing more English narration? So are you considering translating into English narration for audiobooks?
Yes, of course. No, I would love to have Steve Ward capability of not having an accent. But now that accepted that it's okay to have an accent, I am opening myself to those opportunities. Uh, I don't know, it was like a block for me that because I didn't have a perfect accent, that I didn't feel worthy. So the imposter syndrome kept crawling on the back of my head. But now I'm really getting to that place where, you know what? It doesn't matter. They want that accent, that natural accent. So now I am opening myself at my 59 years old. I'm opening myself to the new opportunities. So yes, I will do more uh, English, and now they're sending me those castings where it's English and Spanish. So hopefully soon you will be hearing my voice in both versions, the Spanish and the English one. And yes, that was the first audiobook that I did. And that was the one that I mentioned that it was like, oh my God, it's so long.
But
Now,
I think audiobooks are the equivalent of running a marathon. So when you start running, yeah, the first one's kind of hard, and then you do more and like, oh, I know what this feels like. Oh, I know what I need to. Oh, my stamina is better. I know what that is. So yeah.
Well,
Or
I will
driving a
say,
car.
sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
50s are the new 20s, so you're fine. And then also, and then my second question is, which is kind of related, but about script analysis. Everyone approaches it differently. So, what do you do when you receive copy that has a character with little exposition? What is your process for breaking it down so you can make that character your own and you can make those bold choices that you mentioned earlier?
yes. So I'll answer that first in promos and then in audiobooks. So for promos, you never know what music they're going to do or what is the intention if they don't have it in the script. So in promos, I have three voices, like a normal, a very high voice, and a middle voice. So that way I imagine like a very pump, 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 pump music. So then I will do something epic with the first read, then a more normal one, and then maybe a funny one. So those are my three go-to when I don't know what they want. Now,
If we were to ask Memo to do like the line is coming soon to a theater near you. Could you demonstrate your three
oh,
promo
yes,
energies?
yes,
Mhm.
like normal, coming soon to a theater near you, or maybe funny two ways, coming soon to a theater near you, or coming soon to a theater near you, or if you got the pum 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 pum, coming soon to a theater near you. So you
Mm.
imagine different ways that they could be using that text. And now the coming soon to a theater near you. It's now they want that. So I love coming soon to a theater near you, but they don't use that anymore. But I thought just in case, and I mentioned it. Oh, just in case, I did a very old announcer like one. Uh, and when you have time and you analyze, you do what you do in acting. I mean, who am I? Who am I speaking to? Why am I speaking to this person? Why am I speaking to him or her? What do I need for that person? Where I am? What time of day it is? So all the things that you ask yourself as an actor, I do now in commercials. And let me mention this because it happened to me, and I hope it doesn't happen to you now that I'm mentioning it. I I had some sort of success, so I was recording a lot, and suddenly it became very mechanical for me, and I was not doing all those steps. And when that happens, when you think that you know what you're doing, that's when you are starting to decline. So I noticed that, oh my God, I'm not getting callbacks or that many callbacks anymore. What's happening? And until I realized that I was not doing my due diligence and go through all the things that I used to do when I started, I realized that that was it. Suddenly I got comfortable and I thought that I had made it, and then that I didn't need to try anymore. And that's when work started going down. So now every time I get a text, I analyze the text, do all those questions, and think, okay, how can I approach this? And I usually do for castings two very different approaches, like the normal one that they might be expecting, maybe with a twist, and something that I know will work, but they are not expecting, that they didn't think about that. And sometimes I put that first, so they hear the more out of the box version first, and then the one that they want. So hopefully that way it will catch their eyes. And as I mentioned before, I was very square. I didn't want to change the text at all. And now I try and change the text at the beginning. Of course, it has to make sense with what you're saying. So I add something like a word or like a laugh. So, for example, the text is, "Hi, how are you?" I will go, "Oh, hi, how are you?" Or, "Oh, hi, how are you?" Just something different because they're hearing a lot of versions that are the same. "Hi, how are you?" So do something different based on the character that you know that script is for. So
Mhm.
yeah, that's what I do now. So do not get complacent. Don't think that you've done it. Always do your due diligence.
Yeah. Yeah, love that. Love that.
Thank
And
you
at
so
the
much.
at the dojo, we have some basic tools of analysis. We call them the pre-flight checklist, and there's 5 steps altogether, but the 3 main ones we call the braid of analysis. And think of it always like we're always identifying the 3 strands and then weaving them together when on any piece of copy that we do. But connection, logic, and energy are great ways to start looking at any piece of copy. As a connection is what Memo is saying. How does this resonate with me, and who am I sharing it with? Logic is, what am I talking about and how am I talking about it, right? Just understanding the structure and the message of what you're talking about. And then energy is just what Memo just demonstrated. How much energy does it take to deliver this message, right? Is it, the comedy, the regular, the how much energy? So those are like some basic tools that if you look at any, and we call it the pre-flight checklist because it's like, if you think of yourself as a pilot and each piece of copy as the aircraft that you're flying in that time, then you have to kind of go like, okay, what am I flying here today? Where am I going? What's the weather? How many drink? What's my state of? Am I tired? You need to be able to be prepared to fly this piece of copy, and it's your responsibility to check everything and make sure you're in alignment with it. So that's a quick
And I
quick
just wrote it. Connection, logic, and energy. I loved how you explained it, Tish.
yeah, yeah.
Very.
What's their next project you're going to be doing?
Uh, it's always a mystery. So when they send you, you don't know what you're doing. It's very rare when they tell you what you're going to do. For example, with Batman, the director called me and he said, "Look, I have this movie, Batman. Would you like to do it?" And Batman has been my hero since I was 3 years old, the 60s Batman. So I was like, "Are you kidding? Of course." So that's a special occasion. But most of the time, you don't know what you're doing unless it's a very special project, a Disney project, and they were looking for a special voice, then you know. But most of the time, they just tell you, "Oh, can you record tomorrow at 5 p.m.?" it's 20 loops. So it's like 1 hour or half an hour. And you say yes. And then you jump into the booth and the director explains what it is. Like last week, I didn't know it was an anime. And he said, well, you're Julius. He's a nobleman, but he's very jealous. And that's it. And I don't even remember the name of the series, so I cannot tell you what it is. And
So
sometimes you
normal.
don't know the name of the series.
Yep.
And it's wonderful when you're watching TV and suddenly you go, wait, I am the guy. You find yourself in a movie or something and you hear your voice and it's because you didn't know what you were doing. Sometimes the director just call you to the booth and can you do this? Okay, and then you did it and you get out and you don't know anything about the project. So it's always a surprise. And that's not a
Love that.
that is good.
Yeah, that's the part of the joy of it. Leonardo, I'd love for you to get your voice in the room, and this is a great question, really super good question.
Hello, everybody. My question is, how close do you feel that the Latin American market is from the North American market? Because not only for dubbing, but for voice acting at the general, because I'm from Brazil, and I feel that our market from Brazil is closer to Mexico, for example, than from the United States, because the dubbing job itself, it's kind of older for us, because usually the projects came from the United States, so they actually do the original voice. So we don't have so much opportunities to do original voice in Brazil, for example. I mean, we do have, but it's unusual, it's uncommon. And we also don't have coaches and agencies. We only have, the relationship from the talent and the studio or the director. So here, right now, I live in Florida, and I am studying with the Dojo, which is amazing. And it's so different. I mean, the art itself, it's the same. I mean, the technique, it's the same, but it's good to know how many opportunities you have here, how different jobs you can do being in a voice actor.
Here in America?
Yes.
Okay, so you need to look for them. Now let answer. There are a lot of things in your question. So,
yes, sorry.
no, it's fine, but I love it because, as you mentioned, we have been doing this in Latin America more than the Americans have been doing this because they don't need to dub their stuff into English. So the experience of some Latin actors is way better than their counterpart in America. Now they're becoming very good very fast because they really work their trade here in America. But the level is the same. And I would say that sometimes Spanish dubbing is way better than the English dubbing if you have a series from Germany or another country. Now, Latin America, we as Latin have a very strange way of behaving. We don't want to be seen. So we don't try to collaborate or to be a part of something. So we're very shy and we think that we shouldn't make a lot of waves so they won't notice me and they won't take my job or whatever. For whatever reason, we are like that. That is changing a little bit, little by little. And I think AI was that brought the change. So now people are getting more involved. So from being very shy, now they're being outspoken. And I see a path into the future where we can be more together. I see these at conventions. I see these everywhere. People are understanding that the only way to advance your career is networking and know a lot of people and be part of this wonderful industry that we're in. So I would advise you to be in as many organizations as you can. I mean, some allow for free membership and just know what's happening and be in touch with your friends. Go to a convention. I mean, the the Latin crowd is always the loudest at this
Always the
convention.
best, yeah.
So yeah, it's changing, and what is wonderful of being here in America is the work ethic. I mean, that's the biggest gap between America and Latin America. The professionalism and the ethics. Here in America, it's over here. In Latin America, it's over here. So we need to step up our game if we really want to compete in a global market. And people are understanding this. And at OVO, we are trying to make them understand that there are things that you cannot do. You need to be professional every time. So it's great that you're here because you know the work ethic here is the way to go. And there are many opportunities, but you need to look for them. So you cannot stay in your house waiting for the phone to ring. You really have to start networking and yeah, look for the opportunities. There's no other way of saying it. Now it's part of your job to look for work and look for opportunities. And great, I'm in Florida as well, in Miami, Leonardo.
Cool. I'm in Tampa.
Oh,
It's
very
close.
cool.
It's close.
I was in Tampa last weekend, which is when
Cool.
we did 21 questions
Right.
at the Comic-Con convention.
That's cool.
iPhone's question was, I've been trying to learn more about Spanish dubbing. Any chance there are any websites or resources you recommend to get into the Spanish side of VO?
The only one that I know is Zoo Digital.
Oh, that is the one.
It has different names, but Zoo Digital, just Google Zoo Digital, Zoo Dubs, and they are the ones that opening up and giving courses so you can be a part of the roster.
Yeah. And then you might want to, there's another, I think the other thing, let's see, a little mindset lesson too. I think sometimes as actors or performers, we separate business and what we do as art as this is creative and this isn't. But if you think about, oh, I have a question. My question is, where do I find Spanish dubbing places? So you're smart, ask someone who knows for what the resources are, but then this is where creativity comes in, like, how could I do that? What are Spanish production companies? I know here in LA, there's Dubbing Brothers is a French company, but they do all sorts of languages. But right next to it is another company that just does Spanish. So, how can you be creative? And good job cutting to the chase, because if you can get a list from somebody who knows all the things, your creativity doesn't need to happen. You can just call those people. So, good job. Good job, everyone.
Are the projects, like the bigger projects, for example, like Disney projects, are those harder to get hired on? Is it a different process to get hired for the bigger projects? Or are you supposed to be union? Are you supposed to go through the same agents that they go through? Is it different if you're doing it in Spanish? Sorry.
It's more difficult. It's not impossible, but it's a little more difficult because the stakes are higher. So they won't try someone new if they don't know who that person is and it has a trial record that they're good. Because when you're dubbing something that big, you need to be on cue and you have to be professional and ready to go. But it's not impossible. And you need to find your own way of getting there. So as Tish mentioned, find an in that company. So find who's doing the Disney dubbing, find if there's a way you can get in or know people there. In my case, when I started dubbing, I realized that it was going to take a long time, maybe. In the end, it didn't, but I started doing translations for dubbing. And then when I would give the script, I would say, oh, and there's a character there that I might be able to do. And they would give me that character, and they saw that I was an actor, so they kept giving me more and more stuff. So find your in. If you live in LA, of course, go to the dubbing companies, just make friends and see if there's a way that you can have an in. And once you have that in, just follow that thread until you become the voice of a Disney movie.
Right.
But never give up.
Yeah, and get to know the people who are doing the things. And this is actually what Ned, he's not necessarily working with Disney right now, but this is what he does, and he knows everybody. He used to work at Disney Character Voices, and he is the person who cast for not necessarily, well, actually he casts in all languages. He casts in all languages, but he cast for Disney features and Pixar features and Studio Ghibli features. So like getting to know someone like Ned and having him know your name and know what you can do is fantastic. Like that's how you get in. That's lifting the velvet rope.
You take courses and take their course.
Yeah, and he teaches amazing courses. He's brilliant. I've filled so many of his classes because I'm like, you must study with Ned. He's also available for like little bits of coaching too. So he's a brilliant resource to have. And then Natalie, just in terms of this lesson of being memorable, it's probably a good thing to check what is on your phone because in terms of what shows up in a public forum like this, because here your iPhone, I didn't even know if you were a person, and then you just said your amazing name on this call that has some Spanish speaking thing, and like, oh my God, now I remember you. Now, oh, it's Natalie, and da 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 da, and then I heard your voice and that name. So I put all your name on there and see what that way you remember. But it's just these little things of we build community when we show up to things like this, right? Kelsey, we met because she was here and she showed up and was like, yeah. Anyway, the little lessons.
Very quick question. What is your warm up, Mima? What do you do to warm up when you have long sessions? And what do you have in like your survival kit? Like, do you do teas? Do you do apple slices? What do you do?
So what I do is I do the vocal warm-ups that are on YouTube, vocal warm-up 1, and then it's there. I don't have the link, but it just Google in YouTube vocal warm-up 1, and you're like la da 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 da, and then I do 3 times what I'm gonna do now. Open your mouth, speak out your tongue. I do that 3 times, and then I do I don't remember the name in English, but you do the and then the tongue as well, and then together. That gets your tongue like ready to record. And those are the 3 things that I'm doing now. I'm trying to do some breathing exercises, but that's next. Next time I'm here, I will teach you those.
Awesome. And always a big fan of straw phonation. If you look up straw phonation, humming into a narrow thing, that opens everything up. Okay.
You do the trills. And then I'm sorry, do you like doing tea? That's one of the things I've always asked actors because I always get some people like doing warm tea, some people don't when they're going to have really extended sessions. What do you do to prepare in the booth when you're in the booth?
Just water. I mean,
the exotic water.
Exactly.
Okay.
Sometimes if I'm not feeling it, like I just go crazy inside the booth, like do crazy face, do crazy movements inside the booth, and that will get your heart pumping a little bit, and that will get you ready if you're very down. So just go crazy, like that way, kind of get it
You'd be a
going.
good Muppet. We need a Muppet, a Memo Muppet. Kelsey, you want to tell us what's going on at the dojo? And Memo, if you want to share any way that you want to keep in touch with people, and how you work with people.
We have a you should do Voiceover Launchpad coming up with workouts. September is completely sold out. So we have an October session beginning on October 19th. And if you don't know, that's our like intro course / gives you a briefing on everything you need to know about voiceover and even stuff I thought I knew being in the industry. I was like, oh, well, I didn't know that. So there's that coming up. And then also we have fight clubs coming up. We have a fight club with animation with Ned Lott coming up. He did a lot of the casting for the Studio Ghibli films for Disney, the English dubs. And then we have video games with DB Cooper, and we have animation with Angela Mickey, and I'm posting this all down below.
And the VO Dojo Pro Fight Club we have our development division, which is the Mystery to Mastery, Launchpad and Mystery to Mastery that we were talking about, and the Working Pro division, which is our nth degree program, like nth degree black belt. And then the Fight Club is our Working Pro workout that brings together top-notch talent with the decision makers who hire us. So it turns we call it a fiercely friendly face-off that turns the audition process transparent. So, and you can be a participant, demo rep and booking, and you can also be a spectator. Everyone can be a spectator. So much to learn.
Also, it's so nice because the directors actually tell you why or why not they would have booked you. And sometimes you take classes and they do not tell you why. They're just like, yeah, that was great. And you're like, spent $300 for this. I really love it.
It's a powerful thing. We do it often. So would love to see y'all there. And then also if you do have questions about anything, or there's anything that we can guide you on, you can sign up for a voiceover once-over with me. We can spend 15 minutes going like, where are you at? Where would you like to be? But I love meeting people, love hearing what ingredients you have, where you're at, and how we can be of service. So, Memo, how do people stay in touch with you?
So before I say that, it's very important to keep on preparing yourself and studying and taking courses. So what you do, Tish, is wonderful. I mean, as I mentioned before, I wish I had something like this. When I started, there was nothing like this, not VO conferences, no course or anything. So
as
now
my old colleagues say, we learned on the job. That's how we learned.
Exactly. And you made mistakes and you lose time and maybe you lose money because you didn't have someone to guide you. So now, I mean, I take courses almost every week because I know that's the way to stay current and to be able to advance your career. And believe me, you keep on learning till the day you die. So just keep on learning. That's the way to go. So it's great to have something like the VO Dojo. So thank you, Tish, for that. And if you want to get in touch with me, Memo Sauceda, all the not websites, the digital media, the Instagram, Memo Sauceda. And I also put my email if you want to email me with a question or whatever, memo@memosauceda.com, or in my website, memo-rabol.com. So memorable.com with a dash after memo. And I also put ovuvoices.org, which is the Latin American organization. If some people want to check it out, then that's it. But I'm happy to answer any question that you have, and I had a blast. Tish?
Before we wrap up, Memo and I did 21 questions, Dojo 21 questions, which we usually do with our Ask the Sensei guest. We had a glitch, so it didn't get recorded, but I would love to ask you again, Memo, the last one of the last questions, which is, what is your voiceover motto? If you could recall what you said, because I just remember being like, yeah, that's it, man, that's it. What's your voiceover motto?
Be memorable. So you have to be memorable, and the way I do it is I always give a little more that people expect. So when I give my branding, I give something that has two ways of working. So of course, the most this started it all. It's a pen that has a highlighter and a pen. So it has two ways of working. So whatever I send, it always has a double meaning. And to me, that's it. Just give people more than they expect. And if it has a deeper meaning, then that's the way to stay memorable. Yeah, be professional, be you.
Well, let's finish up with Lena's question, because it'll be a nice story, and then we'll finish up, and we'll see you next month. Yeah, Lena, what's your last question?
My last question is, Memo, is there a dubbing project that you worked on that just really resonated with you and that you loved, and it was one of your best memories that you'd like to share with us?
Of course. It was actually two, Henry V and Hamlet. Because we had, with Hamlet, we had three scripts. So the script that the translator did, then we have two books with two different translations of the Shakespeare text into Spanish. So for every line that we had, we checked which one would match better with the lips of Mel Gibson. So it was a very meticulous work, and it is wonderful. If you see Hamlet in Spanish, it is wonderful. And for some reason, they wanted to dub Hamlet again. So I asked the director if I could use the script that we used, that we corrected. He allowed me to use it, but only my part. So in one of the versions of Hamlet, Mel Gibson's lips are almost perfect, but the other characters are not. And all of them are perfect. So yeah, those were like, oh my God, when you can play with words and with meaning. I mean, it's Shakespeare. It's Shakespeare because in the text, it tells you how to act that part. So it's a beautiful text, and it was two of the most memorable dubbing things that I've done. Yes.
Yeah. Excellent. Well, what a fantastic and inspiring way to complete this fantastic and inspiring call. Thank you, Memo. Thank you, Kelsey. And thank each and every one of you for being here. We do this the first Wednesday of every month at 10 Pacific time. We also have the third Wednesday of every month. We do a more informational webinar or gathering on a workshop on a subject. So that has to do with getting to know VO. So you can put those two things on your calendar all the time. And yeah, look forward to getting to talk with you on a voiceover once-over. And yeah, thanks so much. Have a great day, everyone, and we'll see you soon.